Okay, part two to this. I was cut off, and quite frankly, I know it's a long video, but Utah, considering the theocratic way of how things are done around here, it revolves around the religion. No ifs, ands, or buts. But that still doesn't, at least when it comes to the greater Salt Lake metropolitan area, particularly Salt Lake City and County, that still doesn't affect the mentality of people when it comes to deal with blacks. And yeah, historically they haven't really been that great towards blacks if you look into the church's history. But you can say they're making some strides. I will state this: living here, it's a whole lot better than the Northeast. And quite frankly, just to put in some little 411, some dirt about Utah, blacks are not considered the lowest of the low. We are not considered the niggers of the state. That specifically goes to, and I'm not advocating this, but the quote unquote niggers of the state are usually the Latinos and the Pacific Islanders, mainly because of how a couple of them are involved in the crimes and the gangs and that sort of thing. I know there are gangs in Utah, right? I know it sounds like a oxymoron, but it's true. Um, I'd say Arizona is another good place. Also, for the main reasons of Utah, without the theocracy, blacks aren't that big of a population there. We tend to be there for a reason, whether it's jobs or whether it's school or whether it's playing in some professional league or collegiate league. Um, so a lot of blacks who are in these parts of the country, like here in the West in general, most of the West, particularly the interior West, we're here for a reason, and a lot of people realize that. So you won't have a lot of people questioning, "What are you doing here?" or at least not in a malignant way. So Arizona, especially when you consider the recent bouts of between Arizona and Latino Americans, you all should know that they aren't harping on getting on the backs and cases of blacks. If nothing else, that's the other reason I recommend moving to Arizona. And yeah, Nevada. Anything goes in Nevada. Anything goes. And it's also super libertarian as well, just like Colorado. Um, that leaves the coast. That leaves the three states in which you would think would be the best states in the country. And for the most part, you can't argue with those facts, with these three states being the better states when it comes to where in America can black men find acceptance. California, let's start with this. Actually, let's end with California. I would say the other states that are pretty open-minded when it comes to black men, particularly on-point black men, are the Pacific Northwestern states, Oregon and Washington. Now, you will have bouts and clusters of SJW, faux progressive liberals who will treat everybody else nice, well, not the black man. You will have some of that, especially in your Portlands and your Seattles. But that's a small portion of those cities. Otherwise, you basically have normal people who, yeah, they may not have a lot of exposure to minorities, specifically blacks, but if you show them that, hey, look, you're more on the side or more of Neil deGrasse Tyson? Yeah, I think that's what his name is. You're more of a Neil deGrasse Tyson than a little Illuminati or whatever the fuck his name is, or whatever these rappers name themselves these days. You will get a fair treatment. You will get a fair shake, and you will be perceived at the very least as different than the usual stereotypical black. That is something that I can commend the state of Washington and Oregon for doing. Now there are a couple of handful, I mean small handful of like white nationalists and alt-righters who will, for the most part, they'll just talk shit behind the keyboard. And that goes true throughout the rest of the West, especially when you get into like Idaho and Wyoming. But it's a small threat, and a lot of people, especially in bigger cities, if you're accosted by these people, you will probably have someone more or less defending you on your behalf who is a non-black person. So these are some of the better cities. And as a matter of fact, Seattle is actually touted as one of the cities where it has the highest percentage or the highest amount of interracial couples featuring black men. So I definitely recommend Portland and Seattle. Now the liberalness, if you're not about that SJW liberal life, it may get annoying at times, but it's a small price to pay. And I'd say, yeah. But let's focus on the big elephant in the room, the big conundrum that is California. Now, California, some of the best parts of the country and some of the worst. Believe it or not. Some of the best parts of let's go to some of the worst. You have cities, I'm primarily looking at the two main cities here, unfortunately. San Francisco and Los Angeles. Now, Los Angeles, you have a lot of minorities. This goes back to the Northeast, where you have a lot of non-black minorities who will play the let's hate blacks card in order to impress whites. So you have a lot of that. Two, quite frankly, you have a lot of history when it comes between the riots, the Rodney King era, the O.J. Simpson trial, the LAPD, some politicians. You have a lot of history, which has put a black eye on Los Angeles when it comes to its race relations. Now, I'm not saying it's the worst, and I'm damn sure not saying that you can't find a group of non-black chicks to, date, but it is, out of the West, I'd say it is the worst out of the West. It's still head and shoulders above a lot of places in the Midwest and the Northeast, but compared to Seattle, Denver, Portland, Minneapolis, even Houston and Dallas. Okay, yeah. I'd say the Los Angeles has issues that it needs to resolve. And quite frankly, what the 90s have shown us is that Los Angeles is probably not going to be one of those places in where race relations for blacks are going to be at a zenith. It's not going to be a model city. Now, there are parts of Los Angeles you can go to, or parts of SoCal you can go to, the LA area that you can go to that are better than others. I suggest all of you do ample research, but if I were to take a swing from what I've heard, I'd say some of the beach areas, particularly in Los Angeles County, are good. Your Redondo, Hermosa Beach, your Santa Monica's, your Venice, pretty good. I would say your North Hollywood, your Van Nuys, your Burbanks, your Pasadenas, can't go wrong with those areas, but there may be a bit of snootiness and snobbishness that may turn you off. West LA, Hollywood, I think it's a bit too SJW, faux liberal. An underrated place I'd recommend or look is the South Bay, where you have also like your Gardinas, your Carson, your Torrance, your Long Beach. You may have a bit of crime. Well, not too much really, but a lot of those places tend to be a bit more open-minded, particularly if you were born and raised there. An underrated place I've heard of is Ventura County, so you may want to venture out there if you want. And from what I've heard, the beaches are stellar and underrated. Also, the real big elephant in the room, Orange County. I've been out there several times. I personally haven't had problems in Orange County. But, considering my complexion, a lot of people mistaken me for being biracial. And two, if you have been in this channel for, even if this is your first video watching. You can, if you close your eyes right now, do not tell me that you don't think that I sound like a surfer from that part of the country. And that's the neighbor. I live by myself, so don't worry about that. But I've been able to fit in ways in places like Orange County that a lot of blacks may not be able to. So take that for a grain of salt. I would recommend, the beaches are nice. I definitely recommend the trip, at least driving down there, but don't say I told you it was the best place. I've dated chicks from Orange County, but it's that's a whole nother issue, and that's a whole nother animal into itself. The other place that's a bit shaky is the Bay Area. Now, there are not so great places to go there, particularly San Francisco proper. Now, the reason why I say San Francisco proper is that a lot of it does deal with a lot of your tech bros. A lot of tech bros, SJWs, who are very hypocritical when it comes to their acceptance of blacks. And there are cases in which you have a lot of them just that they'll deal with everything else and everyone else under the sun except blacks. And a lot of them are transplants from other parts of the country, yes. But as far as, and also you have San Jose, the Silicon Valley, where you have a lot of these tech bros, as I stated, a lot of these Mark Zuckerberg kind of guys who, I'll just be blunt, will probably be mad at you as a black man for quote unquote taking their women, so they resort to dealing with Asian women, and then they push these Asian women to hate black men because, and it's just a vicious cycle of that goes on around. If you can avoid those people, however, even in places like San Francisco and San Jose, then I say you can possibly find some of the best locations for interracial dating and for acceptance. Northern California, before the tech bro revolution and the SJW revolution, I'd say Northern California was probably the best place for race relations, in my opinion and in my research. And from what I've heard from the others and whatnot, San Francisco at one point was truly a liberal icon where nobody gave a damn who you dated. Everyone was like kumbaya, even if everyone was just high at the time. San Francisco and that Bay Area still has that open-mindedness that includes blacks, particularly black men, to dating whoever they want. And you can definitely find it on the peninsula, especially if you get outside some of the more douchey and transplant circles and tech bro circles in Silicon Valley and San Mateo, even San Francisco proper. You have some of that. San Jose proper, I mean, you have a lot of Hispanics, Indians, and Asians that stick to themselves, but there are plenty of those in which if you can not prove yourself, but if you can show yourself for being a respectful person who isn't a stereotype, you'll be all right. You're good. I do my reasons. I would definitely not discourage people from going to the Bay Area, but the first part is just a warning on what you might run into, but don't let that discourage you. It's just a bunch of East Coast transplants trying to fuck things up for everyone else, bringing their East Coast, Midwest, and mentality. Fuck them. But a lot of the natives in that part of the country, particularly those who were born either from the state of California or somewhere else in the West, or in a lot of cases outside of the country as a whole, you have a big international population there. And quite frankly, what you tend to find is that a lot of the people who are either first-generation Americans or people who are, I don't want to say this derogatorily, but fresh off the boat, would be way more open-minded to dating black men because they don't have that American influence of blacks are this and no. But you have a lot of that, so there's definitely that. And the one place where I would definitely recommend you going, if nothing else, if you want to deal with an 18-year-old version of a Cash Me Outside hoe, if you want. I mean, I do not recommend dealing with mud shorts, but if you want. And also, there are a lot of nice neighborhoods that are pretty affluent and have plenty of black people, and will have plenty of non-black women who are classy, who are willing to give or just black men in general a chance. Stick with the East Bay area. I mean, Oakland it definitely has had its trials and tribulations, and it definitely, it's very mixed. And you can say for every gang that has come out of Oakland and every criminal act that blacks have done who have repped Oakland, there have been some sort of racial progress in Oakland, particularly when it comes to the original Black Panthers and their works and contributions to giving the voice for blacks without taking it to the next level of just needless violence. And a lot of those people have done a lot more work for blacks in the Bay Area, and to the point in which you don't see a lot of blacks leaving NorCal as much as you do SoCal. That's a big issue I don't want to get into and definitely act like I know, because I'm not from California and I haven't lived in California, but I've read my stories, I've read my books, done my research, and I know that as far as California, particularly NorCal, is concerned, you can't go wrong with the Bay Area if you know where to go, what you're looking for, and what circles you're in. Now, another place that I recommend, or some of the other places I recommend, you have your Stocktons, your Modestos, to a lesser extent Bakersfield and Fresno, where you can date outside your race. Now, the quality of women you'll get over there, it's pretty questionable, but the one place that I'd say you definitely can't go wrong with interracial dating and black men finding acceptance: Sacramento. Now, if O'Shea Duke Jackson wants to elaborate on that a bit more, let him speak. But quite frankly, I've heard nothing but good things from Sacramento, and also San Diego. How can I forget about San Diego? Definitely check out San Diego too. But I think San Diego is more or less an urban version of Orange County. So if you can fit into that environment, you're good to go. If you're not about the surfer life and the beach life and the solid dudes and all this other kind of stuff, if that's not your flow, then you may get bored and you may get turned off from that kind of environment, like OC2, but San Diego. But check those places out. And check the West out. I definitely, if you are going to do a road trip across the country, particularly as a black man, if you really want to save yourself a lot of trouble, I'd say stick with the West, maybe parts of the South. But yeah, definitely make the West your priority if you're doing some sort of reconnaissance like Aaron Clarey recommends in his reconnaissance book. But I told you, this is a big ass country, and as a result, this has been a long ass video, even to the point in which the camera cut this off to two parts. So do your research. Well, actually, I've given you all 50 minutes for research here, but do your due diligence to find out where in the world can you, as a black man, find acceptance. I just hope that wherever you go, it's somewhere where you can be happy, you can feel comfortable, and above all, because there are parts of the country in which black men we don't need to be in. And I've already elaborated that in part one. And we face enough shit as is. Let's try to, as long as we're stuck in America, let's try to reduce the amount of shit that we deal with to a minimum. That's what my channel's all about. Everyone else out there, always bet on X.